and welcome into the Wheelhouse here on Melody Equity Sports and of Lifestyle. Check us out at e50equitysports.com. Got a lot of content, articles, everything you could ever imagine. And we have our 2023 NBA Draft live breakdown up there, as well as we go through each pick of the 2023 NBA Draft that just occurred a couple days ago. Me and Matt will be breaking that down here in a couple seconds as well. We also look forward to free agency, Matt, opening up in 5 days. We'll get into that as well. And also we'll ask, with basketball season being over, at least in Denver, I kind of know where probably Matt's head is at, but are you turning the page to baseball, or are you just skipping that completely and waiting for football? So we will get into that as well. And based on last night, we know what a lot of the answers are here in Denver. Matt, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. I woke up in a good mood and at a good time. Sometimes you wake up too early and sometimes you maybe wake up too late, but today was a good time. So I'm doing pretty good. I got a golf tournament today, later on this morning. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, it should be a good Sunday. And I, like you said, I'm excited to turn the page. I had a huge Denver Nuggets championship hangover where I was blown out. So I'm glad, I'm happy to turn the page for sure.
Yeah, so we will. Yeah, it's kind of hard when this is what happened last year. The Avalanche completely ruined the baseball season for me.
Yeah.
And it's already happened again this season. And it's kind of hard when your team that you follow is the Colorado Rockies. And, you know, the night before playing the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, People's Republic of California, they went on a walk-off was it a grand slam by Elias Diaz the night before? Or it was in the 8th inning. He hit a grand slam.
Yeah.
He's won the game. Last night was an atrocity, Matt, of epic proportion, as it was 23-0 heading into the fifth inning. And it was just crazy. And then after the game, they were just like, hey, Moose, just walk across the hall. We're getting a young pitcher for you. It's cool. So I retweeted our post and said, I would love to see whatever the pitcher's name is. I think it's a Connor Van Suckle or Connor Van Soike, Staccatus something.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to see footage of Mike Moustakas just walk across the hall and the pitcher that the Rockies got walk, just like, hey, what's up, dude? Do the old head nod in the hallway. And
yeah, like
hey, good luck.
At least imagine too, like a team's like, hey, we just got smoked. And it's professional baseball. There's hundreds of games. There's so many games, right? And hundreds. There's so many games. So a game like that, when you get blown out, you kind of forget about it. But like you said, just the teams thinking like, well, let's make a trade. let's make a trade.
Yeah, it was immediately after the game too. So it was
just odd.
Yeah. So, and it's more work for me, Matt, because now I got to go into MLB The Show and do the real trade. And who knows? Who knows if that pitcher even exists in the video game? So we will see what goes on. Trading deadline still a month and a half away, and maybe not less than a month and a half. It's actually July 31st, so around a month to go, and we will see who's left on this Rockies roster. It is just getting from bad to worse, as we all know, and we're used to here in Denver. And I saw ESPN. I don't know if you saw ESPN's post last night. It said, if you're a Denver sports fan, don't look at the Rockies score. Look at this, and it had a picture of the Nuggets celebrating. So yeah. It was, hey, Rockies got some attention. They're not boring. They're getting absolutely massacred by the Angels. So,
and haven't they like come off multiple 4, 5, 6 game losing streaks too just recently?
Something crazy like that. It's been bad, but we'll get into the question. Are you turning the page now to baseball or football? And we probably just gave you our answer. Although the White Sox are coming into town next month, Matt, and that Saturday, they are giving away Todd Hilton jerseys for the first 1,500 fans. So they'll probably have extra if you want to.
Probably.
I don't know though. Any Chicago team, Boston, New York team that comes in here, it usually gets a good crowd, and it's on a Saturday night, and there's probably nothing else to do. So there you go. And so the NBA draft match just happened a few days ago, and it's not as long and extensive as the NFL, or you only have that. You only have 2 rounds in the NBA draft. It all happens on one night. Daniel and I did the first round, kind of breaking down each pick and stuff like that. And obviously the first pick is Victor Wembanyama. He goes to the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know if you saw again ESPN's video of him in full getup, Matt, full Spurs uniform, shooting jumpers. And I think he got up to like 0 for 6 until he finally made a shot. It had a shot counter. It was like 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3. And I think he made it on the 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
And it was a dunk too, wasn't it?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I stopped watching it, but I think it got up to 0 for 6 or something. Again, zero research, all reaction here on the Wheelhouse.
Yeah. I was watching that
after each Lakers loss to the Nuggets in the NBA in the Western Conference Finals.
That was I was because I think didn't they say the shot counter, and they said only leave on a make, because that's the whole adage when after basketball practice or any type of practice, when you have the opportunity to make, you always got to leave on a make. And then they shot that. Yeah, that was embarrassing for that kid. I don't know why they did that and they made him do that. It was kind of odd.
It's funny how they, especially in like full getup. Maybe it was just like a press release, or like saving that for his career later on, or when the season starts, they'll put some funky graphics behind it when he gets his little intro video in his first game or something. I don't know, but it was just kind of funny to see him in the full getup, in the full Spurs uniform. And then, don't know if you saw this either, Matt. He had taken a picture with some of the Spurs legends, and it was David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. What happened to Tim Duncan? Is he just like living on a beach somewhere in the Virgin Islands now? He's got his hair down,
dude.
Got like a bandana over it. Like, this is not the Tim Duncan the serious, show no emotion Tim Duncan that we were used to for so many years.
He looks like he looks like he's ready to lead. He's like trying to go find Neo in the Matrix. Like he's gonna go unplug Neo in the Matrix. That's what he looks like. I felt like he was something like a throwback from one of those movies. But yeah, that dude is just. I mean that, and what's funny is there's a lot of comparisons to him and Nikola Jokic. Like, is that what Nikola's gonna do when he retires? He's gonna come back, and whenever he shows up again here, and it has like long hair. He would almost look like Jesus, wouldn't he?
I mean, he is kind of the Serbian basketball Jesus. So
I got it somewhere in here. There's a picture. I like I said, I got to look for it, where it's Joker, but they did the whole Jesus thing, his face on it, and it looks freaking ridiculously funny.
It's not too far off, honestly. So
no,
yeah. So I don't know what's up with Tim Duncan. He's probably living his best life. Let's face it. That's what retired Hall of Fame 5 championship rings players do. They just go off and just chill on a beach somewhere, I'm sure. So that's what Tim Duncan is doing now. So obviously Victor Wembanyama goes number 1 to the Spurs, and number 2 was kind of a shock, Matt. Brandon Miller out of Alabama was picked by the Charlotte Hornets, and a lot of people, on people's draft boards, mock drafts, whatever you want to call it, had Scoot Henderson go number 2 to Charlotte. And me and Daniel were talking on the draft show, Matt, that it's kind of funny that this being a week after Michael Jordan sells his majority stake in the Hornets, that I don't know if they, for lack of a better term, mess up the draft, but they go a different direction than a lot of people had them going. Then Brandon Miller came out yesterday, Matt, saying, quote, "I see the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA Finals, so hopefully we can be holding that big trophy." I'm assuming he's just saying what a lot of people want to hear, saying the right things, but really, the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and did you see when Jordan called him? Like there was a little deal where they had Jordan call him to tell him that they were going to draft him, and you can just hear Michael Jordan in his voice. Like he didn't mention anything about it, but the way he was talking about him, he goes, "Yeah, I just heard what you said." You know what I mean? Even still, Michael Jordan, he's like, "Yeah, I heard what you said," but he was asking, "Did you talk to LaMelo? Did you talk to Melo? Did you do this? Did you do that?" And getting him all ready to go. But yeah, Scoot Henderson was almost, I wouldn't say a lock there, but I felt like that's the way they were going, and then they went with Brandon Miller, and also let's see where that dude's head's at. Like he had some trouble with Alabama. There were some issues there, and going in the NBA, and that's the biggest thing, especially when you look at with these top 10 draft picks, especially these lottery picks, where their heads are. As you see Zion Williamson, I mean, where's his head? Well, we all know where his head's at.
Yeah, and his head's usually being filled with Big Macs.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see. Yeah,
have it your way.
Yeah, I love that tune. What about? I mean, there was so many talks about trades, and we talked about it. On draft night, is Dame Lillard going to be going anywhere? Maybe we thought they would package, and I'll tell you my little theory on the number 3 pick. Many thought that maybe the Portland Trailblazers would trade that number 3 pick, package it, with Dame going somewhere. A lot of talk has been to Miami. Jimmy Butler's playing Dollar Dame time music on his Instagram posts. So there's been a lot of that. But I told Daniel this on draft night, Matt, and that is, I think because that Scoot Henderson fell into their laps, literally, everyone thought that Scoot would go number 2, and then he just falls right into the Trailblazers' lap at number 3. I think that's why they didn't make any trade with Dame, package anything with Dame, because Scoot fell right there. And so that's kind of my take on it. I think that if they were not able to get Scoot Henderson at the number 3 pick, Matt, maybe they would have packaged it with Dame to go somewhere. But I think that because now Scoot, who's, got the hype as a top 3 pick now, that they were just like, oh, well, let's just see if him and Dame can get something going.
Yeah, it's because like when you think about adding lottery picks to a team and trying to add pieces to a championship and make it a championship team, there's a lot of young dudes there with that team. You got Anthony Simons, he's not that old. He's only been around for so long. So it's kind of like Dame and the pups, Dame and the kids, it was, is kind of a situation you have going there. So I'm very curious to see if that stays there. I've been reading up these past couple of days trying to get plugged back into things, and it looks like that there are packages out there, or there were packages, like you mentioned. Jimmy Butler's been playing Dame Dollar stuff, and it looks like there's even coming up till now that there's packages getting looked at for Dame. Miami's a hot place. I can't remember where the other one was, but there maybe Philly too. They were looking at Philly with Tobias Harris, but Philly's been involved in a couple. I think they're linked to Ayton too, as a matter of fact. But
yeah, Phoenix wants a 3-team deal to get Tobias Harris.
Yeah,
basically shipping Ayton anywhere.
They want to, they want to get rid of him so they can add to that rotation. But it's crazy. So I don't know if as of now he's still on that team, but who knows what can happen just later on in this off season. He could be traded, or it could be a trade deadline situation too when we get into the season.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see a lot of people, or a lot of experts, I guess, thinking that Dame would be packaged somewhere somehow in that first round. But I think that because of Scoot fell right into their laps, they're like, let's maybe hold off and see what happens. And then Scoot Henderson, I don't know if you saw his quote yesterday, said, I've looked at the roster. Obviously, number 0 is taken. So he's going to wear 00 for the Portland Trailblazers. Kind of a cool thing at number 4 and 5, Matt. Usar, 4 and 5. Houston takes Amen Thompson, and Detroit takes Usar Thompson. Twins taken back-to-back. So that was pretty cool. We were trying to figure out, has there ever been not only brothers taken in the first round, but how about back-to-back, and how about being twins? I don't know if that's ever happened. And some of we were talking about it when the draft was happening, Matt. Obviously, Victor coming over from France, the Metropolitans '92. These the G League ignites. The G League players are coming through. The overtime elite. That's the league that kind of confuses me, Matt, because there's only 3 teams in that league, so I don't really know how that all works. But I like the fact that the G League, you can go right from high school to the G League,
Right.
and if you want to go to the NBA, you could still go and be one and done. So that was kind of cool. Brothers back to back, twins, mind you, back to back Houston and Detroit. Obviously, both of these teams are kind of years away, Matt, from really making any type of noise. I guess it still depends on if the beard, James Harden, wants to go back to Houston, or is he going to stay in Philly? Last thing I read, that he's most likely to stay in Philly.
Yeah.
So, but kind of cool to see 2 brothers go back to back in the draft.
Yeah, and these dudes are ballers, man. I really like I like both of them, but Amen, I really like how he shoots, and they both have their things that they can do. And Thompson, or they're both Thompson, but Amen, he likes to handle the ball a little bit more, if from what I could tell, just the little brief stuff that I watched of him. But like you said, the biggest thing is where these guys are coming from. They're going straight from high school into these leagues, and not necessarily college, but it gives them the opportunity to keep pursuing basketball. I think what we're going to see is, over time, the best place to go is overseas to play. And I think that's what we're going to see over time. But I just think it gets you more prepared for things. And then, I mean, you got with a man, you got Udoka is there as a coach in Houston. So that's very, very, very interesting situation there in Houston. Just with Udoka being there, that we saw what that dude was doing in Boston. The situation happened with him. So I'm very, very curious to see what that looks like with Houston. Like you mentioned Harden. I don't know if they're going to get Harden back. There was talk about getting him back, but I don't know. So it sounds like he might stay there in Philly if they can get them. If they can get him to play a little bit more through Embiid and not just Harden. So I think that was the issue with Doc Rivers. So, but yeah, either way, Houston and these Thompson twins, it's going to be curious to see how they progress over time. They're on teams with the opportunity to do that. Houston and Detroit are some of the teams that could be really good in the next couple of years.
Yeah, like they said, probably a couple years away, but stockpiling picks, stockpiling this young talent, not only is going to help them later on, with young talent, but also financially, because they have so many like rookie contracts that they're able to, in a few years when these guys mature and get better, Matt, they can bring in the big name. So they'll be able to afford the big name. So look out.
I said Udoka's there in Houston as a coach. Monty Williams is there in Detroit.
Yeah.
Great coaching on both of those teams.
Yeah. So if you want to learn to, kind of scheme around some office chicks, you got Udoka there. So
you got Udoka?
Yeah.
Got him.
And if you want to not learn how to manage egos, you got Monty Williams. No, both good coaches. I still don't fully understand the Udoka thing in Boston. That was just all weird.
That sounded like they had to do something, so that's what they did.
Yeah.
And it was 2 adults that got into some adult things that was just between them. So it had nothing to do with the. I mean, there's codes of conduct, I'm sure, but
in the words of Jada Pinkett Smith, it was an entanglement. So that's
right.
That's all it was. Anthony Black goes number 6 to Orlando. He's out of Arkansas. Not only were the Indiana Pacers wheeling and dealing before the draft, during the draft, Washington made a few trades. Dallas was very active, trading players around. I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Bilal Coulibaly, he was teammates with Victor Wembanyama at the Metropolitans '92 coming out of France. He was traded to Washington. Jarris Walker out of Houston, he went number 8. He was traded to Indiana. So those 2 teams swapped. Taylor Hendricks out of Central Florida went to Utah. Carson Wallace went number 10. He was out of Kentucky. He was traded to Oklahoma City. Jed Howard at number 11, Matt, to Orlando. The son of very good NBA player Juwan Howard was picked number 11 by Orlando. Of course, like his dad, out of Michigan. That was cool to see Juwan on the couch with his son going to Orlando. And I was like, when me and Daniel were breaking these picks down, I was like, huh, I'm sure because Juwan Howard played on many, many NBA teams. He had 2 stints here in Denver. It was funny because I want to say it was like the 02-03 season he was here in Denver. I actually had a Juwan Howard jersey, Matt, and it was the white rainbow skyline one.
Okay.
And he actually did pretty well that year. But again, 2 stints in Denver. It was cool to see Juwan Howard's son go number 11 to Orlando.
That's a sneaky pick too. That dude's a baller, man. I really think that they got, again, Orlando, another team, another one of those young teams that are kind of, in that mix of could be potentially pretty good in the next coming season. So yeah, they got a good, and then you're getting into that 11, you're getting close to being out of the lottery situation. So you're starting to get players that are the 2 to 3 year starters. Maybe they played all 4 years. So you're starting to get those players where now, if you ask me, those are the players you add to, teams that are good, championship contender teams with these guys that are later in their years. And that's what's really funny about the drafts. The lottery picks are all one and dones pretty much, or they're from France or or out of the country, in this case just France. But and then the guys that are drafted later in the rounds are the ones that are 3 to 4 year starters. Wouldn't you think that the 3 to 4 year starters in some situations would be more? I guess there's the ceiling and the floor and the ceiling situation with the lottery picks. But I always look at drafts and I'm kind of wondering, like, all these good players that are ready and prepared to play because they've been 3 to 4 year starters at their college or wherever they went, they're getting picked later, but they produce more. But you got these guys with the lottery picks that only played one, they're one and dones, and they're flashy and they're talent. They can jump out of the gym. Their AAU teams are tremendous. That always kind of confuses me sometimes.
Right. And especially the guys coming over from Europe, like you mentioned, they're and I touched on this during the draft, they're playing against those countries' best players.
Yeah.
Unless they're already in the NBA, guys like Jokic, he actually was playing against men in Serbia. Guys like Manu Ginobili,
Luka Doncic,
Luka Doncic, all these European guys, they were playing in those countries' best leagues against men. And that's why they come over with their game already polished, already mature. And so you kind of mature in that way. And like you mentioned, the guys who have been in college, and we'll get to that here in a second, who have been, like you said, starters for 3 or 4 years, they're more mature.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not going up against, you have 20-year-olds in Europe going against, 28 to 30-year-olds in their prime in Europe. So you're learning from them. You're banging bodies with them. That's how you get more mature. Victor Wembanyama, he's 7'3" with a jumper, but I mean the guy's a twig. So hopefully they're able to beef him up just a little bit. We saw that with Manute Bol way back in the day. Matt just had so many knee problems and stuff like that, and he was a twig. So we'll see what we will see what happens with Victor. But the guys coming over from Europe, the guys who are starters in their respective college teams, seem to be a lot more mature and ready to go once they are drafted. But like you said, these one and dones take a little bit of time. It takes a special case, but takes a little bit of time to get there. Number 13, man, I don't know if you saw this dude seat, but Grady Dick, number 13 to Kansas. And this kicked off a string of 5 straight guards taken. Grady Dick is listed as a guard forward, so he could probably play that 2-3 maybe out of Kansas. I don't know if he got to play with Christian Brown in Kansas, but
yeah, I wonder if he did.
Yeah, again, zero research, all reaction. Number 14, Jordan Hawkins goes to the Pelicans out of UConn. Kind of interesting tie there. He is cousins, Matt, with the chick from LSU who just won a national championship. So
yeah,
and again, her name has slipped my mind. So excuse me. She's the one who was
Oh gosh.
with the thing to Caitlin Clark. So
Yes.
we'll look it up maybe.
Reese.
Angel Reese. Yes.
Angel Reese.
Yes,
Yes.
cousins. So that was pretty cool. He goes to New Orleans. She's down there at LSU. So maybe they can both do the no look thing together. Number 15, Kobe Buffkin goes to Atlanta out of Michigan. And
I like that pick. Another Michigan guard. Michigan had really good guards this year. I really like that pick.
And this kind of kicked off a string of, like you said, Matt, this is all college players now. This is all guys coming out of 4-year
established guys that have got in the mature. You said you hit it right on the head. You said the maturity, and these guys got it.
Yeah. So number 16, Keontae George out of Baylor goes to the Jazz. And we were talking about this too. The Jazz are interesting now because they shipped away all their guys. They traded Donovan Mitchell, they traded Rudy Gobert, they traded oh my God. They traded Mike Conley. The only guy who's really there now is Jordan Clarkson, which is kind of weird. Is it going to be Jordan Clarkson and the Pups, or do you even see Jordan Clarkson making it to the regular season?
I heard that they were kind of shopping Jordan Clarkson. I think they're going to build around Markkanen. They're going to build around the dude that's got the hockey player name.
Yeah,
it's
right. And he's right now fighting or he's not fighting, but he had to enlist. Remember, he had to enlist in his country's military,
right,
in Finland. So again, I think we touched on that when that happened. I was like, I don't remember Mikko Rantanen, who's also from Finland, because it's not voluntary in Finland. You have to serve.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was weird to see him, 'cause he usually has like long, like luscious blonde locks, curled, and it was weird to see him with his head shaved. So
yeah, it's Utah is a very, very interesting situation there because they've essentially, and they were pretty good last year. In the beginning of the year, they were giving Nuggets. The Nuggets played them. I want to say like 2 out of 4 games. Their first 4 games were against the Jazz, I feel like, and they gave them hell. Like I remember those first 2 games with Oklahoma City, Utah. It was kind of like that mix, and they were just giving them hell.
Yeah, and it, like me and Daniel was saying during the draft, I don't think I've ever uttered the words, Matt, the Utah Jazz are rebuilding. I don't think I've ever said that in my life, but here we are. It is happening right now. It is happening right now. So we'll see what the Utah Jazz do maybe a couple years away again. The Lakers at number 17, they picked Jalen Hood-Schifino out of Indiana, guard. So that kind of raises the question, are they bringing back D'Lo? What's going to happen with Dennis Schroeder? Are they going to try to make a run at one of these free agent guards, make a trade somewhere? Because now we'll get into this. Chris Paul is now in Golden State, which was a wild, crazy day of trades for the NBA. Number 18, Jaime Jaquez Jr. from UCLA goes to Miami at number 18. Number 19, Brandon Podminski from Santa Clara. And how about this, Matt? When we posted that pick on Twitter, University of Santa Clara liked our tweet. So
that's awesome.
We're getting big time. This is the interesting one, Matt, and this is the one that even Daniel had in his top 10. Cam Whitmore, the forward out of Villanova, goes all the way to number 20 to the Houston Rockets. And that was I don't want to say that was a sneaky or steal pick, but what a great pick for Houston as he slid all the way down to number 20.
Yeah, his position rank was 2, and his overall rank was 6. So he's had some issues up and down with him. So there's obviously they dropped him down to the draft board. This could be another situation like the Nuggets when they kind of lucked into Michael Porter Jr., except that was for more of an injury situation. And this is, behavioral and things like that of that nature, the way I understand it. I could be wrong on that, but again, no research, all reaction. So, but Villanova, a great freaking basketball program, and you're getting a kid who was a big part of that.
Yeah. So that was interesting to see him slide all the way down to number 20. And then Brooklyn has back-to-back picks, number 21 and 22. They go Noah Clowney, the forward or 5 out of Alabama. Dariq Whitehead goes number 22, the guard out of Duke. So that raises some interesting questions for the Nets, Matt. Can they bring back Cam Johnson? What's going to happen with Mikal Bridges, the 2 guys they got in the big KD trade earlier around the trade deadline. So Brooklyn's going to be interesting. And I brought this up to Daniel, man. I'll propose it to you. If they would have traded Kevin Durant earlier in the season, maybe before the season even started, would Brooklyn have even made the playoffs? I feel like Brooklyn was in that position. What were they, the 6th seed or something like that?
Yeah.
I feel like they were in that position because Kevin Durant and company got them there before he got traded. So without KD and you know, Mikal Bridges, who they're trying to make the face of the franchise, I don't know what's going to happen with Cam Johnson. I just don't know where the Nets go from here, especially with back-to-back picks. I mean, are they even a playoff team next year?
It'll be remain to see. It'll be something to see because they have piece like you said. There's pieces there, but do they want to use those pieces to make to kind of go the route a lot of the Houston, Indiana, Detroit, the way that they're going and stockpile picks and stockpile draft picks and build that way. Jacques Vaughn's a good coach. I like him. I've always liked Jacques Vaughn. So he's a good coach, and I think he's the kind of guy that can kind of do that with some young pups there. So Mikal Bridges is a good young guy to build around too, if they decide to keep him, which I think they will. I think they will keep him. So, and we'll see who they sign, but that's another team that, and you already seen it in this draft. We mentioned Indiana, Houston, and Washington. They were getting involved with trades in and out of getting back in, trading for dudes, swapping picks, getting more picks for in the upcoming drafts. So I think you're going to see a lot of these teams like that go the route of built through the. It's a perfect. We have the perfect example here in Denver of what it looks like. JJ Redick, Jay Billis, a lot of those guys, those draft guys, we're talking about. Here's the example of teams that they want to model, and I think that's the way these teams are going to start to go. Build those mature, draft those mature guys, and bring them up. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely for sure where Brooklyn goes, but I think they do become one of these teams that build to the draft.
Right. So we'll see with Brooklyn. They're going to be interesting storyline next season. Chris Murray, forward out of Iowa, goes number 23 to Portland. Oliver Maxis Prosper, he was selected by the Sacramento Kings at number 24 out of Marquette. He gets traded to Dallas. Number 25, Memphis gets Marcus Saucer out of Houston, the guard. He was traded to Detroit. So Detroit gets another guard. So maybe that's their starting front court, Usar Thompson and Marcus Saucer. So that could be a rookie starting two guards for the Detroit Pistons. Add in Cade Cunningham and company. So a good young team, hopefully in a couple of years. And again, like you mentioned, Monty Williams as the head coach in Detroit. Ben Shepherd, the guard out of Belmont, goes number 26 to Indiana. And this is another string of 4 guards selected in a row. Nick Smith Jr., the guard out of Arkansas. Scott Hastings would be happy. He goes number 27 to Charlotte. Number 28, Utah. Utah had 3 picks, by the way, in this first draft. So they were saucing up their lineup. Bryce Sensabaugh, a guard out of Ohio State, goes number 28 to Utah. And this is where the Denver Nuggets got their pick in. And the whole night, Matt, because they got 2 picks the day before from Indiana. Number 29 was one of them, and it still had Indiana's logo. And I know that Indiana selected these players for the Nuggets, but I was wondering, has this trade been like 100% finalized if it still had Indiana's logo? And then off to the side, it said proposed trade, and it had the Nuggets logo. And Daniel was absolutely sure that it was just, again, ESPN trolling the Nuggets for everything and not making ESPN enough money because they would just demolish teams in the playoffs and didn't go to 7 games. So that's what his conspiracy theory was. But the Nuggets do end up with Julian Strother, the guard / forward out of Gonzaga, who is going to be a good player, Matt. And like you said, has been I think a 3-year starter for the Bulldogs in Gonzaga. So again, not going up against quote unquote men in Europe, but now has that and I think he's 20. He's still only 20, 21, something like that. So still got 3 years of college under his belt.
Yeah. And I mean, this dude, right? If I was Michael Porter Jr., I would be a little nervous.
Watching your back.
Yes, I would be kind of looking over, making sure my back's healthy. Number one,
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't hurt it looking back.
don't hurt it looking back because this dude is here to do what you are so we're supposed to do and make your open 3-pointers. This guy's one of the best shooters. He shot like 40 something percent. And it was just, I mean, this dude is one of those guys. He's 6'7", so he's still tall, and he's not short. He doesn't give up size there. He could be a pretty good defender too here in the NBA. But if this guy's here to shoot, and then they develop the defense around that, oh boy, I if I was Michael Porter Jr., because he's got that big contract, and the way this stuff's going down here in a couple years, I'm sure we'll get into this at some point on one of the shows that we get into. But as far as trade prospects go, but I think Michael Porter Jr. with this pickup here, I don't know if this season, but we'll see what this guy looks like in summer basketball. Are you looking forward to summer ball too, man? I'm excited about it.
Usually, I could care less about the summer league, man, but I'm even looking to go to Vegas and maybe catch one.
Because you could sit there in the gym
Yeah.
all day and watch teams all day long.
I don't even care if I go by myself at this point. So I'm making a trip down to Vegas, I think, at some point next month, as the summer league will get kicked off in July. And then the last pick of the first round is Kobe Brown, once again listed as a guard for. So technically 6 guards drafted in a row to close out the first round. Kobe Brown out of Missouri, speaking of Michael Porter Jr. And so that was your first round. And I just want to touch on the Nuggets picks in the second round. Once again, they acquired number 32 the day before from Indiana. So Jalen Pickett was their pick, the guard out of Penn State. Another guy, Matt. I think I want to say he was a 5-year player for Penn State because of the COVID year. So he's selected to come back for another year. 6'2", 209. How about this? We just talked about Strother, Matt. He's 6'7", 208. That's pretty. That's pound for pound. That's pretty small for a forward, because Jalen Pickett's only a 6'2" guard and he's 209. So they're about 2 positions away from each other, pound for pound. And Jalen Pickett has about the same build as a forward. Once again, coming out of Penn State as a 5-year player. He was the MAC Rookie of the Year in 2019. I mean, they got a good guard, Matt, and maybe without the status of Bruce Brown's up in the air as he opted out of his player option last week. As free agent opens here in 5 days, Nuggets can bring Bruce back for around 8.2. They don't have a lot of money to play with. They're not the Phoenix Suns and going way over the luxury tax.
No.
So what did you make of this pick? Because I thought it was interesting because now if you look at the depth chart for the Nuggets, I don't want to say they're guard heavy, but this was an interesting pick, especially if Bruce Brown does not come back.
Yeah, the Nuggets are like, I don't know if these guys are going to come in and contribute right away, and it definitely depends on what we get, because there's a lot of guys too that are overseas that the Nuggets, they got one guy, I can't remember his freaking name. Again, no research, no research, all
Honestly,
reaction.
I was just reading his name yesterday and I forgot.
You know who I'm talking about though, right?
Yes.
And there's Colin Gillespie, there's Jack White, there's still guys that are on this roster that are here from this season, or the 2 seasons that they're kind of, Zeke Naji's still out there that we're still trying to, the development in him we're still looking at that. So a lot of these guys are going to go into the developmental stage, whether that's a G League, whether that's wherever that they end up going. I'm not 100% sure on how all that works out. I'm sure there's weeds that we can get into to figure all that out. But the Bruce Brown situation is very, very interesting. I would love for them to bring him back and run it back with him here. He's going to make a lot of money. I think they're talking about, like, if he doesn't sign, like, he can make, you said the number there, was it 7 or 8 or something like that?
8.2. He can come back and make, because he was only going to get about 6.8 if he did not decline his option.
Right.
So he can get about $1.5 million more. Sorry, there's a fly on my coffee mug.
And oh no, get it. And I think that you can get. I think if he goes out in the open market, he can get like 12, 13 million or something like that.
Yeah, we were talking about is that you can't. He's not going to go to Detroit because he was drafted by Detroit. So I'm going to use Detroit as an example. Or you can go to Detroit, or teams like Washington or somewhere, Charlotte, where careers go to die, and get close to 20 million. And I wouldn't be mad if I'd be upset because of all the things he said. And I guess champagne was flowing through his body when he said one more year. But even before the finals even ended, Matt, he said money's not everything. I fit in well here. I love it here. And a lot of people were even upset that he declined his option. But he did that because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Even the Nuggets were like, "Hey, decline your option. We can bring you back for 8.2 as opposed to 6.8, but that's all we can do if you want to run it back." But I personally, it's a business, Matt. We all know that. I personally wouldn't be mad if he said, "I got my ring. I'm going to go get my bag and be a starter." Maybe he wants to be a starter, Matt.
Yeah, you can't fault, like you said, it's a business, and you can't fault him for going out to see if he can make his life better. Because right now, that would be, there's 8 million to 12 million to 30, whatever the max he can get from a team, would make your life a hell of a lot better. So I do feel like he is genuine when he says that he wants to stay here. It's a good fit for him. He can wear all his cowboy gear. He can walk around his cowboy hat and boots on, so he can do all that stuff here still. So I don't see why he would leave, especially to run it back. I do feel in my gut, in my heart of hearts, that he will stay here. But at the same time, I don't think the Nuggets are going to be quiet in free agency. I don't think the Nuggets are going to be quiet in trades. I do still think the Nuggets are going to do something, because I know that they don't think that they can just stand pat and run it back and be just fine. I think that they do have to make some kind of adjustments.
The good news for the Nuggets is all 5 starters are intact. And I don't know if you've seen Bruce Brown's Instagram, Matt, but there's a picture of him sitting at his locker in his "We saw, we conquered" shirt and his cowboy hat, kind of. And people are confused. Either he's basking in the locker room for the last time, or he's sitting in his locker room because he's coming back. So there's a lot of, I don't know if it's cryptic, so to speak, but that's kind of where people were a little bit confused when he posted that yesterday. So we will see what happens with Bruce Brown. The last pick they had, as my screen reloads, the last pick they had in the second round was pick number 40, Matt. And this was actually their pick, as they traded, or they actually traded this pick later on to the Lakers. They drafted Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine, the forward, and he was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. So technically they only walk away with 2 picks once again. So, a forward and a guard, like you said, Michael Porter Jr. may be looking over his back. I don't know if Bruce doesn't come back. Do we see the guard from Penn State? Do we see Jalen Pickett be the backup point guard? Like you said, do they bring in somebody? It's going to be an interesting offseason for the Nuggets.
I think summer ball is going to tell us a lot. There's Colin Gillespie there. He's on that 2-way contract. He's a 1 or 2. I think he mainly plays 1. Jack White's there too. He's more of a small, but there's so many options, and you're going to see other guys too that get brought in here. What do they call them in the NBA? Do they call them unsigned draft picks or undrafted free agents?
Undrafted free agents, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see if they get. I'm sure that they'll have some of those guys in here. So summer ball is going to tell us a lot with the way the Nuggets go, and they might even run it back with Reggie Jackson. I don't know what his contract status is. They might even do that.
I think he's a free agent.
Is he a free agent?
Because
who knows what he might even retire. That might be a wrap for him.
Well, same with, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff Green came out tomorrow and said, "I'm done."
Right. DeAndre Jordan.
I could see DeAndre coming back for the veteran minimum. But
because he's a good presence on the bench.
Yeah. So, DeAndre, I'm gonna just say most likely not coming back. DeAndre Jordan, Thomas Bryant, Reggie Jackson.
So there's three guys who are on, pretty, I don't want to say hefty, but pretty good contracts that are getting off the books. So
Right.
you have that to look forward to as well. And obviously KCP and Aaron Gordon, obviously Jokic, Murray, and Porter are all going to be sticking around. So what we're dealing with Bruce right now in Denver right now, Matt, this time next year is what we're going to be dealing with KCP. So
right.
And he, he's been in the league 11 years. So
and then
I don't know how long he'll have left.
Right. But then hopefully, see, this is why I'm so happy about this Nuggets and why I don't think there's anything wrong with calling it starting to talk about a potential dynasty. KCP leaves, Christian Brown can't step up and take that spot. There's guys that we have that are, and they're not all of them aren't going to hit. No, they're not all going to hit, but we have dudes that can step up when these guys that we got in here that have, and I think we might have to start looking at it like the New England Patriots and the Bill Belichick kind of situation. I know football and basketball, the money and stuff like that's different and the contracts are different, but what did the Patriots always do? They kind of let go of guys a little bit, quote unquote, sooner than they should, but to get ready for the next guy to come in. And I think that's what the Nuggets mindset is. They want to be a place for veterans and stuff like that, but at the same time, they're here to keep winning. And I think that if they can put a younger guy behind you and move on from you, that they're going to do that. I really think the Nuggets and what Calvin Booth is doing, they are trying to create a dynasty situation, and that all surrounds Nikola Jokic. And we might even be looking at a time when they look to bring up the next guy for Nikola.
Right. So
long ways from now, hopefully, huh, Mike? Long ways from now, hopefully.
Yeah, because Jokic is. I don't see him again. I think we called it. I don't see him signing another contract.
We talked.
But he is linked up until 2028. So he is.
And he just signed that, right?
So last year he signed it. So how about this? I thought honestly this dude from Gonzaga, the mustache man, Drew Timme, I thought he was going to be the next like Adam Morrison, but he actually went undrafted, Matt, and he was picked up. Like you said, Summer League could tell a lot, but he was picked up by the Milwaukee Bucks as an undrafted free agent. So we will see if he makes it through. He was kind of the last couple of NCAA tournaments, March Madness, he was kind of the big name out of especially playing for Gonzaga. I honestly thought, I was like, man, this guy's going to be the next Adam Morrison. But then he ends up going undrafted, and the Milwaukee Bucks picked him up. So we'll see if he makes it out of summer league. But it was kind of funny to see that. So all right. So that was these trades that happen in the National Basketball League. I know you got a hard out at 9, Matt. You got to make the links.
I got to hit the links.
Yeah, he's already got his Tiger Wood hat on. So
I'm halfway ready.
Are you going to be golfing in your Atlanta Braves jersey, by the way?
No, this was just for the show. I got my I literally got a wardrobe here. I got my show shirts in here.
Yeah, he puts on his costumes.
49-27, baby.
There you go.
Anyway,
the trades that happen, obviously, to try to dethrone the Denver Nuggets. Phoenix again makes a huge trade as they trade Chris Paul and Landry Shamet to the Washington Wizards. Chris Paul was. Can you consider that having a cup of coffee? Because I don't even consider that having a cup of coffee. And he gets literally turned around, shipped out 48 hours later to the Golden State Warriors. Golden State. It's funny because the new GM of the Golden State Warriors, Mike Dunleavy Jr., obviously a former player, son of a head coach, he comes out and says, "Oh, Jordan Poole's going to be with us for at least 4 more years because of his contract." Literally a day later, trades him to Washington for Chris Paul, and now, again, I none of this helps either of these teams beat the Nuggets. You're just adding another shooter to Phoenix. Bradley Beal is a good player, and again, we talked about the DeAndre Ayton situation. They're looking for a third team with Philadelphia to acquire. Even if they get Tobias Harris, Matt, still not a solution to stop Nikola Jokic. And so I don't know what Phoenix is doing. Matt Ishbia maybe needs another throat punch to wake him up because, they are, Matt. They're three players that they're playing. 4 players of their starting lineup, just 4. They're paying $168 million to next season.
Right.
4 players, not even starting 5, 4 players. So they're paying the luxury tax, and DeAndre Ayton's part of that 4 until maybe he gets traded. Still no solution. Golden State, you're just getting older, smaller. If you bring Draymond Green, Matt, is he really your starting 5? What are you going to do with Kuminga? What are you going to do with who's the other dude there who got like 20 rebounds in a game? Forgot his name.
Oh, yeah, I know. Tony.
Something weird.
Looney.
Yeah, James Looney. I mean, none of this is helping these teams beat the Nuggets.
No, and we talked about during the draft. We gave examples of the teams that are following the model of the Nuggets. We mentioned those teams. These are teams that aren't, and you might even throw Boston into that situation. But Boston had to do something to get Kristaps, and then you have the Suns, like you said, and another thing with the Bradley Beal addition. What has Bradley Beal done in his career outside of be a part of the Eastern, or I mean, a Eastern Conference All-Star roster? That's 3 times. Yeah, he's a 3-time All-Star. He's got a max contract. The dude's missed 100 games in the past 4 years or something crazy. Or maybe maybe it was the opposite of that. Maybe he's only played in. There's something crazy. The guy has not played a lot of basketball. Then you throw that onto a team that has Kevin Durant, where he doesn't play a lot of basketball because he's hurt. What did he play 20, 30 games last year, if that, during the regular season? So the whole goal, and I'm listening to these people on these shows between yesterday and Friday, and I'm trying to get caught up on all this stuff, and these guys are saying that the addition of Bradley Beal is going to what they were saying was they're going to wait till the playoffs again. Remember how this year it was all, we'll get into the playoffs and then we'll start to get you almost, I mean, if Kawhi Leonard doesn't get hurt, I don't know if Phoenix beats LA in that series. So there's just a lot of things that those two teams are and I don't even know what Golden State's doing with Chris Paul. He's going to come off the bench. Is he going to facilitate? This tells me too that Klay Thompson might not be a Golden State Warrior.
Well, I don't know if you can bring $20 million off the bench in Chris Paul.
Right.
That's a hefty contract to be bringing off the bench. But I would like Chris Paul in the starting lineup for the simple fact that all you have to do is because Steph Curry, you put him at the 2. I think he's a much better 2 than he is a 1. Because now Chris Paul brings the ball up the floor, you pass it to Steph, and he just shoots. Like he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to do anything.
He doesn't have to create as much for himself anymore and Steph Curry is one of the best movers without the basketball. Let's face it, he's
really good, really good.
He never stops moving without the basketball. So, and you move Klay Thompson to the 3.
I guess you move him to 3, yeah. If he stays there, because he was talking like he wanted more money.
I mean, I don't blame him, but he
fell off, didn't he?
He disappeared.
I feel like he fell off a little bit.
Well, he disappeared definitely in the playoffs, and he was kind of like Michael Porter Jr. His shot was just not going down, and much like Michael Porter, it's not like he was airballing him. I mean, the balls clank against the rim, like go halfway down the cylinder and come right back up. So it's not like he was, they were good shots, open shots, but they were just not falling. I don't know if that's fixable because, I mean, like I said, they weren't bad shots. They just were not going in. So we'll see what the Warriors do. Like you brought up Kristaps to Boston. If you're Boston, why are you trying so hard to get him? Because now what do you do with Robert Williams? What is the future of Al Horford? Like, what are they doing?
I guess, and when I saw that move, I was thinking like, damn, is Boston getting ready to beef up their lineup to play Denver in the championship next year? Because I mean that's only they're adding bigs. Like that's the only way I looked at it was this move, because you already beat Philly, right? You're not loading up to beat Joel. So I didn't understand what that was about. I really didn't understand why you needed to have him unless you're going to move one of those other guys, unless Al Horford's not. I don't know. He's getting up there in years. So
38. He's 38.
He's 38. Yeah. I mean, he might be, I don't know. That might be for that move. And I mean, I keep hearing too that Jaylen Brown They're talking about moving him potentially, or like Boston's a very, very interesting deal.
But yeah, and then let's not discredit Memphis, who got Marcus Smart out of the deal. And
That was huge too, right there. You give up one of your best perimeter defenders, almost maybe your best defensive guy overall, almost, that can guard a lot of positions, and you give him up.
Well, and let's face it, Kristaps is what, 7'6" or something crazy. He just like Jokic, he's not known for a defensive guy.
No, he's not. What has he? He didn't. He was a flame out in New York. He didn't work well with Luka. I mean, what do you expect him to come in there and do there? You know,
that's what I was asking. If you're Boston, why are you trying so hard to get Porzingis? For his shooting as a 7'6" guy? I mean, yeah, I just don't. Unless they try to work on him with defensive. And going back to Memphis really quickly, I know you got to get out of here, Matt. Now you have the back-to-back. Now you have the last two defensive players of the year on your roster in Marcus Smart and Jaren Jackson. So
right,
they got a little, and you know
that one right there could be something, because Memphis was hurt. Steven Adams is coming back. You have, like you mentioned, the Jackson there, the defensive player, and then you add Marcus Smart to that, and then John Morant's going to be back in, what was it, 20, 30 games, something like that.
Yeah, Memphis
could be scary next year.
So, because now who's going to start in the place for Ja, I guess, is the question, because you traded Tyus Jones, who played a lot when Ja was out at point guard. Marcus Smart is more of a 2. Maybe they bring in somebody, or maybe because they did draft a rookie guard, maybe he fills in for 25 games until Ja comes back. Who knows?
Maybe T-Rex arms a little bit could bring the ball up. Maybe.
Yeah. And Dylan Brooks is definitely not coming back. But again, if you somehow brought Dylan Brooks back, he's a pretty good defender. You have Marcus Smart, Dylan Brooks, and Jaren Jackson Jr. That's a pretty good defensive. I mean, it's not much offense.
Right. It was already a good defensive team, but you add Ja to that. Ja's your offense.
Yeah.
Memphis could just, because now you have somebody that can give Jamal Murray some trouble.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say for Phoenix. Landry Shamet was
giving
more troubles for Jamal than Chris Paul ever did, or Devin Booker ever did. So we will see what happens. All right. With the last minute here, Matt, we kind of touched on it earlier. You know, with basketball being over, the high that at least we were on here in Denver, kind of recovering from the championship run. Are you skipping over baseball now and just waiting for football, or are you going to maybe divulge in a little bit of baseball?
I'm in baseball. I've watched I've tried to.
I mean, you got a Braves jersey on, so I'm assuming you're kind of there.
I'm in there, yeah, and I'm in there. I was watching Mets games. I was watching the Mets look like crap, by the way, and I think it's hilarious. I think it's absolutely hilarious. But I mean, I'm sure we'll get into more baseball talk later on. But I am getting into baseball for sure. I'm starting to watch baseball, starting to take it in. Golf has been really big with me, and then football, Mike. I can't get into it yet, man. It's kind of funny watching all the New York Jets and the Aaron Rodgers hoopla. I'm paying attention to the Packers. The Broncos, bud, they just don't interest me right now. I'm just, and I think it's good, because I think that's the way Sean Payton wants it.
Yeah, it is fascinating to not know what's going on, at least here in Denver. Some of the bigger storylines, the Jets, they're going to be an interesting team to watch. We'll see where, Cook is still a free agent. He's still hanging around. A lot of ties with Denver, but I don't think they're going to make that move. So, still some big names out in the market. We will see where they go. As like you said, we'll dive into more baseball, football as the weeks go on. Don't forget, NBA free agency opens up in 5 days. So we'll probably recapping some of those big moves a week from right now. Don't forget to get involved in all the socials. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel at 5280 Sports Radio. You can follow us on Facebook as well. Like us on Facebook at 5280 Sports and Lifestyle, on Twitter at 5280 Sports Radio, on Instagram as well, on all the socials. So go to e5280sports.com. A lot of good content up there as well. Hopefully, Matt, tomorrow we will be bringing back the Stalking Dead. Daniel and myself will be recapping and looking forward to the new spinoff of The Walking Dead, Matt, Dead City, with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohan, who play Negan and Maggie, respectively. Looking further down the line, Daryl has his own spinoff coming here. Daryl Dixon, featuring Norman Reedus, and also Rick and Michonne just wrapped up their spinoff as well with Andy Lincoln and Diana Guerrero. So
I might. Do I need to? So I will. I caught real quick. I caught some stuff of that Dead City.
It's the first episode was really good.
Do I need to know everything in the backstory, or can I pick up and watch that as a new show?
You could probably pick it up. You can also feel free to ask me a lot of questions because
okay,
I was
I caught it and I was like, you know what? I as a wrestling fan, that gave me some that Negan character. He gave me some heel kind of Stone Cold Steve Austin vibes.
Oh yeah, his one-liners are absolutely delicious. So, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan is awesome anyway. So
we'll see. I might get into that.
Yeah. So, and I'm sharing some AMC Plus passwords anyway. So watch it before those come out. So, and I'll have the episode recaps too going up on E5280sports.com.
Cool.
But that's going to do it for us here. Follow Matt Mascarenas1 on Twitter. Follow me at Michael Spillin on Twitter. And for Matt Mascarenas, I am Michael Spillin. We will talk to you next week.